So I'll ask Haladar Das Prabhu. Normally I ask the younger Matajis to recite the Mangalacharan prayers, but now we will go to the senior most devotee on this call that I know of. So I'll ask Haladar Das Prabhu to please, recite the Mangalacharan prayers for the auspicious beginning of this class. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So we'll chant Mangalacharan. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Vena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Vena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunathan Vintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagan Lalita Shri Visakanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kupa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Everybody please join. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Krishna
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
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 Hare,
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
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 Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo
Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo
Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udire nastaprayesva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. Hare Krishna Prabhu, take it over please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the recitation of the Mangalacharan prayers. Uh, so I was thinking about how to summarize chapter 1 and where to begin. And we could start with, where Dhritarashtra starts. But I think, it is important for us to receive Bhagavad Gita in the proper context. And therefore, we went into discussions of the introduction as to why Prabhupada wrote this Bhagavad Gita, what is the purpose behind writing this Bhagavad Gita, uh, how it should be received, how it should be implemented in our life, what is the Mahatmya of Bhagavad Gita. All of that we did in the last two classes. Uh, and at the beginning of the summarization of the introduction, I had mentioned about a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada starts the introduction with uh, Ajnanam Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka. So why Prabhupada started with that? What is the significance of that verse in to be quoted in the introduction? And what do we mean by Ajna? Because basically Bhagavad Gita is to remove that Ajna. And for us, secondly, the second verse of the Mangalacharan is also about fulfilling the purpose that was taken up by the propounder of our parampara. We are Rupanuga. So Rupa Goswami, why he, uh, what was his service to Lord Chaitanya? And what are we supposed to do when we are Rupanugas? We are the followers of Rupa Goswami. What is it that we are supposed to do? We are supposed to uphold the ambition, fulfillment of the ambition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to uh, have his name be chanted all across the world. So it is not just about us knowing about Bhagavad Gita and removing our ignorance. It is also about taking that knowledge to then be imparted to the other souls who are in this world and suffering from the pains of this world. And that is what the second verse within the Mangalacharan prayer is. But coming back to the meaning of the word Adhyan, we had discussed five different characteristics of Adhyan. Anybody remembers from the class, two classes before, what those were? Okay, no worries. So those five symptoms of Agyan. So Agyan or ignorance is not to be taken in the context of what we speak colloquially as ignorance. That is not what Shastra is talking about. Shastra is talking about the Agyan that envelops our soul. And uh, the five symptoms of that Agyan is uh, basically Andhatamishra, so which is the sense of death. So we are the souls, but uh, we are covered by this sense of death and fear of death. Then there is Tamishram, which is anger upon frustration. Whenever something does not happen, why do we become angry? Because it is something that is part of this ajnana. The third characteristic is moham, illusory conception. So while there is uniformity, even science recognizes there is uniformity of energy, there is uniformity of matter. What it means is, the total mass in this universe remains the same. The total energy in this universe remains the same. The mass keeps changing. The objects in front of us will keep changing their shape, name, form, quality. But in total, everything remains the same. Energies will keep changing, but in total, the energy will still remain the same within the universe. So basically, forget about the science and how science sees it. But the point is, there is one single reality, but we break it up, and that is where the illusory conception comes. We do not see the table in front of me as something that is basically a manifestation of the Lord's energy. We see that as a table. We see things as chair. We see things as a person. We see things as an animal. We see things as a tree. We see things as a river. Uh, Whatever that be. And that conception to see things devoid of the creator and only see the creation and not even see the creation holistically but individually in minute parts is this sense of illusory conception, because when we see things like that we lose the big picture, and therefore whatever knowledge and conclusion we draw from things and situations is going to be erroneous. So that is the conception of, moham or illusory conception. Not only do we see things through this illusion that they are different and this, it's this, they have their own small existence, we start to take ownership over it. So now, not only I see a car, I say that is my car, and I try to compare my car with somebody else's car, and then we say, "Oh, I am better," or "Oh, my life is miserable. I don't have a car, or I have an inferior car, or whatever it is." And this is Mahamoham. So there is Moham to see illusory conceptions in front of us, devoid of the holistic reality. And Mahamoham is further getting entangled by taking ownership over it. And not only do we take ownership, we start to say this is good and that is bad. So that dual concept starts to come in our mind. And that propagates our existence in this world. All of these 4 or 5 characteristics that I'm talking about perpetuates our existence in this world. So we talked about Andha Tamishram, which is the sense of death, Tamishram, which is anger upon frustration, Moham, which is illusory conception, Mahamoham, which is ownership of enjoyable objects, and lastly, Tama. Tama is the darkness in self-knowledge. What that means is not being aware of our spiritual identity, that we are the souls. That matter is completely different. It is It is like, you know, fish is, we are basically fish, but that fish, if you take it out of water and put into air, what kind of condition the fish will have if it is put on soil instead of water. So we are something like that. We are the soul, but we are here outside of our natural environment of Sat Chit Ananda, and we are in this world. And in this world, to exist in this world, the God had to create. It is not that he wanted to create. He had to create these 5 illusory conceptions, this ignorance, this concept of ignorance, because we wanted to enjoy. We wanted to enjoy independent of the Lord. And that is not possible. If kids say, I want to act out like mom and dad, then what do mom and dad do? They basically give them a playhouse and say, go play. And in that playhouse, they have those false or illusory concept of teacups, and they will have their tea party, and they will have their prince and princesses and all of that. And basically, it's an illusory concept that is created for the purpose of the children's enjoyment. Why? Because the children insisted that they want to act out like adults. Similarly, we wanted to act out like the Lord. The Lord had to create something for us because that's not our natural position. We cannot even enjoy. Our the soul basically is like consciousness. Consciousness cannot enjoy. Only when consciousness is covered by something. It's like a player in the video game parlor. You walk in, you want to enjoy something, you need a separate software and you need a separate hardware, and that's what the Lord has given. The software is the subtle body, and the hardware is the external or the gross body. And with that, we are basically interacting in this world. And then we get so lost into this game that we forget who we are. So that is the concept of ignorance. To enjoy the game, the Lord has created it for us, but we need to come out of it. Bhagavad Gita is that book. The Shastras are the means for us to come out of this ignorance, and that is the purpose with which we have to read Bhagavad Gita. So I went into creation, I went into the concept of ignorance that is created, the purpose with which we need to read, and how we need to even understand not only the introduction, but even chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 1 is creating the context. But we start reading Bhagavad Gita from chapter 1. However, Bhagavad Gita itself is placed within Mahabharata. And Mahabharata starts with so many other stories, so much before the birth of Duryodhan or the birth of Yudhishthir Maharaj, etc. And all of that is relevant. Why is that relevant? Because generally, if we forget that we are that eternal soul who's had a journey and we think of things in this moment, so we have, you know, millions and billions and trillions of worlds before us, years before us, in some other journey, some other life form we existed. We do not know what that is. We do not know what we did in that life form. And we now have, say, 100-year spot in this world at this time. And then within that 100 years, on this day and at this moment, we are sitting here and we reflect on this world. But if we do not remember where we've come from and where we are headed in terms of the direction the soul has taken to proceed on its journey, and we start to question and start to interpret things in the moment, how right can our conclusions be? So this is very important to understand. Not only did the Lord create this out of his magnanimity for our enjoyment, we forgot about it. The Lord says in chapter 7, verse 7, He says, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre mani ganaya. What that means is, He is the thread on which all entities live as if they are the money, and He's created a beautiful necklace out of it. Thinking about it slightly differently, what this means is He's created the fabric of this world with millions and billions and trillions of such threads, each thread being our life journey, and how those threads intersect at certain point of time creates a life situation. So to say that, the Kurukshetra war happened because of Dhritarashtra, to say that it happened because of Duryodhana, to say that it happened because of, Yudhishthir Maharaj lost the game of dice, is us thinking about things in ignorance. Because again, all of that is thinking about in one life form of Dhritarashtra, one life form of Duryodhana, one life form of Yudhishthira. If we really understand Mahabharata, and if we truly want to understand what Bhagavad Gita is and what Lord is going to say in the subsequent chapters of Bhagavad Gita, we need to understand there are so many journeys that Shastra tell us, and then so many, because there are so many characters in Mahabharata, we don't know their individual journeys, but we can understand that if these people have journeys, every soul and every character in Mahabharata has had a journey to come to bring them to a certain point. And our internalization, because it's not just about we are reading Bhagavad Gita, but we are also internalizing Bhagavad Gita for our own life. Our own understanding should be that even in my life, I have had a journey like this. So what are these journeys that I'm talking about? Just to give example, Dantavakra and Shishupal are basically the Jay and Vijay of Vaikuntha who had their first birth as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and then as Ravan and Kumbhakara. And then they come up as Dantavakra and Shishupal. So just see, even from the beginning of creation, their journey is starting and they end up in the Mahabharata war. The journey of Vasudeva and Devaki, even the parents of the Lord, their journey starts with when they were Prashni and they were Sutapa and Prashni. And they pray to the Lord and they have three births, and the Lord comes up as their son in previous two births as well as in this particular birth as Vasudeva and Devaki. And so he comes up as Prishni Garbha, then as Kashyap and Aditi, their son is Vamandev, and then in their life in the Mahabharata times, the Lord comes up as Krishna and blesses them. So there is that journey. Now coming slowly to the other character, Ganga and Shantanu. Now Shantanu is still about 10, 15 generations ahead. No, not 10, 15, a few generations ahead of the time of Mahabharata. But Shantanu and Ganga have their own history. Ganga, Shantanu used to be Mahabhisha in his previous birth. He was a very magnanimous king who attained heaven, Indraloka. And there in that assembly, while in that assembly things are going on, and Ganga happens to be there, and Ganga's upper bodily cloth sort of falls down, and Mahabhisha, even though he is in that auspicious, assembly, he forgets it and he keeps staring at her, enchanted. And Ganga is also pleased by the attention he gives. So Brahma curses both of them. All the other members of the assembly divert their looks, and these two are entangled. So Brahma curses them, go on earth to live through a certain life. And Ganga, you will stay on earth until you break Mahabhisha's heart, so that Mahabhisha basically comes out of the illusion. So then Ganga takes the birth, Shantanu, Mahabhisha takes the birth as Shantanu. They happen to have a marriage. Intertwined with this is the story of 8 Vasus. They are cursed by Vasishtha, and then they come up. The 8th Vasu, who's the main perpetrator of the mischief against Vasishtha Muni, has to stay longer, and he is Bhishma, and Bhishma, or his 7 brothers are immediately relieved by Ganga, and Bhishma is the 8th brother, and he has to stay, and he is a central character in Mahabharata. Ganga breaks Shantanu's heart by killing the 7 kids. On the 8th kid's time, Shantanu says, enough is enough. Now I'm taking this kid. You cannot do this. So Ganga is relieved of her curse at that time, and Shantanu's heart is broken. But does Shantanu learn from it? No. Shantanu then goes and marries Satyavrati. So he has to give up the heavenly planet and come to this earth because he got illusioned by the bodily form. And then even in this bodily form, instead of learning from that frustration, what does Shantanu do? He becomes enamored and enchanted by another bodily form in Satyavati. So all these stories are intertwined. And that is what comes up to Mahabharata. The point is, we forget the journey of people, and then we come to a certain point and our thinking suddenly only coalesces around that certain point in time. And we start to think and interpret things and question things. Why me? Why this? It is so unfair. Is there God? Is God, why can't God do something? But we forget what we've done in the past, what merits us to be put into a certain situation, why people have different types of life, why people have problems in life. We do not understand. We just, like stupid people, just keep asking why. But the answers for the why and the need, there is, if we actually truly study Mahabharata from the beginning, all of the things that the Lord is now going to tell us will become so obvious. But we do not have the capacity, and therefore we have to fall back on Guru, the Lord, and the Shastra. But it's not just that we forget our journey. Then while we come to this world to enjoy this world, we start to make so many problems for ourselves. And you will now understand 1866 when I go through some of these other examples. So, and we'll come back to Shantanu Maharaj because that also comes up in this. Apart from the, eternal journey the soul has had that brought us to this point, or those souls to the point of the Mahabharata war, there are certain things that have happened that led to Mahabharata war. Do we know, or perhaps those of us who've seen the Mahabharata serial may remember that it begins with Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat, not Bharat Maharaj of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bharat as the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. He has 9 sons, but they are cruel and they are not fit to become king. So he requests Bharadwaj Muni, and Bharadwaj Muni provides him his heir. So he doesn't appoint his own son to be the prince and become the king of the dynasty. And Bharat Varsha is named after him. So he doesn't give his entire empire to his son. He gives it to Bhumanyu. So merit over lineage. We see the problem even now in India. I just could not resist saying that. That lineage, sometimes people think it is entitled. They are entitled to rule. That entitlement you see in Duryodhana as you come down their lineage also. But at certain point of time, merit was important. And people realized that if you do not have the merit, you cannot hold the position. Bharat Maharaj was one such king who held that position. Shantanu is 29th in that lineage. And by the time Shantanu Maharaj comes, what does he do? He, being a king, fully aware of king's duty, fully aware of Raj Dharma, political science, administrative responsibility, he, when he sees Ganga, becomes enamored by her. Okay, that was the purpose of this birth. But he forgets and he gives an unconditional promise. Ganga says, I have two conditions. He says, yeah, whatever it is, I accept. And that unconditional promise leads to the 7 kids that lose their life and the 8th kid who's Bhishma. Not only he gives an unconditional promise, does not learn from, or maybe he realizes that these promises are problematic, but he slightly thereafter appoints Bhishma or Devbrat at that time as the prince of the kingdom. But later on, he happens to get enchanted by Satyavati, becomes so morose. So he's not breaking his promise. When he wants to marry Satyavati, the Satyavati's father puts conditions. Now he realizes, I cannot promise like this. As a king, how can I promise things that I cannot fulfill or that is unfair? So he does not give unconditional promise this time, but he is very sad that he cannot attain. Now, Devbrat, as the son of this father, goes to Satyavati's father and asks what your conditions are. And he gives unconditional promises. He says, I renounce the kingdom. I will not marry so that my heirs will not claim the kingdom. Then he says, I will also be the protector of this kingdom. And he's, of course, he's a what's the word? He's a Mahapurusha. There are 12 Mahapurushas in as per our scripture. He's one of them. But he gives that kind of unconditional promise. And then he stays by that promise. So that's another thing. So promises are given unconditionally, merit is ignored. Then people hold on to the promise as if everything is all about it. Why? Because they attach their existence and ego to it. Now, compare and contrast this Bhishma's promise, and not only Bhishma, there are others who have given such promises. Who are they? There is the promise that Bhishma has given. Yudhishthira, who says that I am going to be, I'll always speak the truth. Even in the battlefield, when the Lord tells him, do not tell or say that Ashwatthama has been killed, he wants to uphold his concept of what is right and wrong, and therefore he says, I am only going to speak the truth. Narova Kunjarova. Drona also holds on to his promise that, for helping me with my revenge of Virata, I am going to now help the Kuru king. And therefore, Bhishma and Drona end up on this side of the war. So promises are made without thinking, promises are upheld irrespective of consequences, even while consequences are seen by these people, and they do not see that it is okay to break the promise because it is going to avoid bigger problems. Contrast this with the Lord. He is Satyakam. Whatever he wants will happen. He is Satyavrata. What he says will happen. but he breaks his promises. Time and again, he breaks his promises for his devotee. The example is in the war itself. When Bhishma is in front of us and he's killing Pandavas like anything, and he's shooting arrows at Arjuna as if Arjuna's life is at stake, the Lord picks up a weapon, breaks his own promise. But we humans are so into our own thinking and creation of our mind that we think holding our promise is the biggest, and now I will become so glorious. So that is another challenge that leads to it, to this war. So we think that the war is because of Duryodhan was this or Duryodhan was that. I'm giving you all these things because now when the Lord starts to speak of Bhagavad Gita, a whole lot of things will start to click in. Think about the life story of Shakuni. Shakuni is the brother of Gandhari. But to avenge the death of his family and avenge the marriage of Gandhari to the blind son Dhritarashtra, he is basically destroying the sons and the family of Gandhari. How stupid is that? Can you understand this? Forget about this. There is another life story that is intertwined in this. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. They are the princesses that Bhishma kidnapped to have them get married to Vichitraviri. What happens there? Amba says that I love somebody else, Shalva, and then she wants to go back. Shalva says, but you've been conquered, so I cannot have you. So she says, oh, Bhishma is the source of my problem. Instead of trying to understand things, she focuses everything on Bhishma. And then she asks, Parshuram to kill Bhishma. Then she propitiates Lord Shiva, and then she wants to kill Bhishma. Bhishma, who is the protector of the kingdom, her own sisters are the ones who are going to give progeny to that kingdom, Ambika and Ambalika. So what is Amba doing? In her anger, she is basically destroying the whole life and ambition of her two sisters, Ambika and Ambalika. This is how we have to understand what goes on in people's mind, what this ignorance is all about. We don't even know what we are doing. And therefore, we are always bewildered because we forget who we are, where we started, why we've come here, why things are happening to us. We forget our relationship to the Lord. We forget how we are supposed to act in a certain situation because we get carried away by one particular emotion or one particular thought. And then we get bewildered as to what this is. And the problem is we actually even come to the wrong conclusion. But before that, there is a point here. Because there is a journey, because there is a history, and because that history has to have a logical conclusion, the Lord who is weaving the thread and creating the fabric understands what needs to happen. And He is therefore our best well-wisher, even though we do not understand. He is the best well-wisher. And He's put things together in a certain way. Because He's put things in a certain way, even though we do not understand, those people who have the ability and consciousness to understand what is happening can read signs of it without the things being manifested. So in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 1 itself, verses 12 to I think 17, there are signs of victory that are predicted. Now, this is interesting. This is part of the summarization of chapter 1. It is very interesting that the acharyas start to read the signs of victory of Pandavas in chapter 1. The Lord has not spoken about Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is still not bewildered. He's not even seen he's not asked the Lord to come to the center of the war field. That happens in verse 20. But between 12 to 17, the acharyas have already started to talk about the signs of victory. What does that mean? It means whether Arjuna got the knowledge or did not get the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion was already there because of everything that has happened so far. And therefore, even in the environment, signs of victory for Pandavas manifest. And those in the knowledge understand that and read into it. At this point, Arjuna is not bewildered. He is not started to ask questions of Krishna. He is not even said that, there is no certainty that he will follow what Krishna says. Because in chapter 18, verses 57 to 60, Krishna says, I am telling you this, but you may do this or you may not. You may follow your own nature. And even if you follow your own nature, at some point of time, you will come back and you will fight this war. So, because this is all rooted in that history. And what are the signs of victory? Some of the signs are in the environment, and some of the signs are seen in the words people speak without knowing what they are speaking. The very first thing Dhritarashtra says, without knowing, Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. He says the war is being fought in the Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra is basically the land of righteous. So Kuru, who is the previous ancestor, basically establishes Kurukshetra because it is the land of the righteous people. We in India are supposed to be the people from the land of righteousness. Anyways, so coming to Dhritarashtra saying Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. So right there, how can, if it is Dharma Kshetra and right place of righteous people, how can irreligion flourish? So right there is the first sign. It is something that is so innocuous, but it is spoken by Dhritarashtra. The second is Krishna's presence. How can anything go against the Lord? If Lord is on one side, how can the other side win? Simple. Second or third, wherever the Lord is, his wife, the goddess of fortune, is going to be with him. So if fortune is on this side, how can the other side win? Then the other sign that Acharyas talk about is the presence of Hanuman. And Prabhupada says, so Krishna, who's Ram, goddess of fortune, who's Sita, and Hanuman, who's the servitor. If all three of them are on this side, how can the other side win? Then there are some other things that the Acharyas talk about, as in the chariot that was given to Arjuna was a divine chariot from Agnidev, that the conch shell itself is a symbol of Vishnu. It is seen in the hands of Vishnu in all rupas. And when the conch shells are blown, the voice that comes out, the dhvani that comes out of the conch shell, it says this, the conch shell that Bhishma blew was to give satisfaction to the heart of Duryodhana. But the conch shells that Pandavas blew and the Lord blew, the sound vibrations that were emanated were transcendental, and they shattered the hearts of the Kaurava Sena. So right in that, the words used, the act that is happening, the sound that is generated, there are signs of victory there. So my point here is, whether we know, whether we act in knowledge or whether we do not act in knowledge, there is a bigger scheme that the Lord has set up about, and things are going to manifest as per that bigger scheme. This doesn't mean that we do not have any control. We can still act out a particular situation this way or that way. But in the grand scheme of things, in the whole drama that is there, our dialogue in a point may change. Our action at a point in the drama may change. But the outcome of the drama is to be decided by the Lord. The Lord has already decided. When it was decided, because the Lord was requested by the Bhudevi, by the the Devtas and Brahma himself. They say, please come and relieve the burden from this earth. So he takes this birth. He asks the Devtas to come and take birth in the Yadu dynasty and the other dynasties around it. So it is already pre-decided. He's come to relieve the burden. That is the big grand scheme of things within which people are acting. They may act with consequence, without consequence, for their own journey. But the grand scheme of things is already set, and we have to understand at times that no matter what we wish, whatever we want, will not happen because there is a grand scheme that is happening, and it is all by the will of the Lord. Now, with this backdrop, you can understand karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, why you cannot desire or deserve or should not think about the fruits of your work. Now you can actually understand, oh, I have a journey because of that. I have done things wrong because of that. Because there is a grand scheme the Lord is enfolding. And because of that, I do not have I should not even have the results of my action. There are multiple reasons. If you think about it, all the ingredients belong to the Lord, and I take those ingredients as a borrowing, as a loan, then the outcome belongs to the Lord. If nothing is mine that I put in as input, then how can I claim the output, which is the fruit of my action? So there are so many ways we can now understand how Bhagavad Gita is told and how to internalize each shloka in Bhagavad Gita. We can now understand 1866 better because Sarva Dharman Parityajya. I told you about the promises made by Bhishma, by Yudhishthira, by Drona. Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Give up your concepts of what is religion because it is so difficult to understand. Just take shelter of me. Take refuge of me. You may act with goodness, passion, and ignorance. Chapter 17, verses 23 and 28. But if you take shelter of me, if you are conscious of me and you say Om Tat Sat, everything is you, everything comes from you, everything happens in you. I may be acting in goodness, ignorance, or passion, but at the end, it is your reality, it is your world. That itself is enough because we will be alipta, we will not be then entangled into this, repetitive roots and action. Anyway, so I went through a whole lot here. Quickly coming back to the chapter 1 itself. So these signs were revealed long before, but and I only spoke of the verses 12 to 17. But if I want to summarize, and I should summarize because that is the purpose of this conversation. So I went through a lecture by Gauranga Prabhu. He is the president of Govardhan Eco Village. Very, very, elevated devotee, very good orator. Please listen to his classes. I am just parroting things here. But he says the whole chapter 1 is all about, and you can summarize that as doubt. And he says the word D is basically for Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. And it is contained in verses 1 to 12. And the Prabhu summarizes it as whenever things that are seen and enacted on the concepts of I, me, and mine, it will eventually lead to such a point of selfishness and ambition that it will create conflicts with everybody around you, and it will create anxiety, frustration, disappointment. And if you keep going down that path without retracing yourself, it will lead to destruction. So that is the D, and you could see that in verses 1 to 12 as to how Dhritarashtra speaks about Pandavas and Kauravas. They all are Kurus. Kuru was so many generations ahead of Dhritarashtra. So everybody who's in that lineage is a Kuru Vansha. But he stops. He says, my sons are Kurus. or Kauravas, and Pandu's sons are Pandus or Pandava. So that thinking is seen. Duryodhana is also, even in the war, he does not see there are relatives in front of him. He's thinking, my army is this. He's thinking that, oh, this person may be more partial to Pandava, so let me sort of instigate that person and make him fight more viciously. And therefore he goes to Bhishma and then he speaks of Drona and all that. So that is verses 1 to 12. The I, me, mine leading to possible destruction of the whole dynasty later on. And then there is the ominous result for Duryodhana, which is the signs of victory for Pandavas or God's plan. And conversely, this is in spite of all the planning Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana have put in and the army they have assimilated, as per God's plan, they are going to get destroyed. So ominous outcomes for such I, me, and mine related selfish acts. Then the Prabhu summarizes verses 21 to 27. So 1 to 12, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, leading to destruction out of their acts. 13 to 20, God's plan or signs of victory for, Pandavas. 21 to 27 is more about Arjuna observing the life situation, and that creates uncertainty. So Arjuna, who is a very good warrior, very accomplished, knows political science, administration, etc., etc., he has mastery over all weapons, but he gets bewildered, and life situations will come up where we are uncertain what to do now. So he, between 21 to 27 verses, when he observes that life situation, he becomes uncertain. What am I supposed to do? And when that uncertainty comes in our mind, if all we take care of and think of and form our conclusion on is secular knowledge without understanding that we are souls, that we are parts and parcels of the Lord. What is our relationship with the Lord? What are we supposed to do? When we forget how we are supposed to act in this world, then what happens is we get bewildered. Our knowledge is unable to solve the problems. Not only do we get bewildered, we come to wrong conclusions as Arjuna is coming. And what is that? From verses 31 to 43, basically, or towards the end of this chapter, uh, Arjuna comes up with 6 different reasons why he does not want to fight. So he applies, he suddenly gets into this bodily thinking when he sees his relations in front of him. And out of that thinking and out of that ajnana, which Bhagavad Gita is supposed to remove and dispel, and the concept of death, because Arjuna keeps talking about death in this so many times. So all of those 5 characteristics of ajnana start to show in Arjun Maharaj's what we generally call as logical thinking. And Arjun Maharaj at that point is thinking, he's thinking logically. So what were his reasons for not fighting? He gives the first reason as compassion. Why kill so many people? There were 40 million people in, 40 lakh people on the battlefield at that time. 18 Aukshayani Senas. Why kill so many people? It is not good. He has that compassion. So that's the first reason that Arjuna gives to not fight. Arjuna gives the second reason. Even if you kill all these people and then get the kingdom, what's the point? Who am I going to show this kingdom to and how am I going to enjoy this kingdom? So there is no enjoyment if people with whom you want to enjoy are not there on the trip. We also think like that, right? If you go to a particular place or some vacation, but the family is not there, then you will not enjoy it as much. So that concept of you know, first is, the compassion. Second is enjoyment. I will not be able to enjoy, so why fight? I would rather be this way. I'm better off this way when people are there around. The third thing is he says, oh, there will be fear of sinful reaction. So if I kill, then all the sinful reactions will be there on me because I am going to kill my Pitama and my Guru, and on everybody else who's fighting. So bad karma will accumulate for us and for the society. So that's not good. Then he says, oh, there will be destruction of family and social structure. How family and social structure? Because now the women will be without husband, so they will be unprotected. Social structure, because who's going to uphold dharma then? And if all of this happens, unwanted progeny will happen. And that unwanted progeny will create bigger chaos in this world. This is all his thinking. It is all happening in his mind at this time. And we also get into situations, and we also, when we are thinking only from secular knowledge without spiritual knowledge and background, we can come to wrong conclusions like this. Another reason he gives is, oh, okay, not only family structure will be destroyed, people will not perform, therefore the pindadan, and therefore even the ancestors will be deprived and their lives are going to get impacted. All of this sounds very logical, and the Lord refutes all of this agyan of Arjun Maharaj in chapter 2 and beyond. So that is chapter 1. Quickly to summarize and conclude, if you see all of this and you try to recall what was agyan, how that comes into play, and how we see situations out of this agyan. So what Arjun Maharaj is saying, think of those 5 aspects of agyan and see how Arjun Maharaj is facing and getting bewildered by agyan in this situation. Think of why situations happen in a certain way, because there is a history. Even if we do not recall that history, does not mean that that is not there. And because of that history, things may be favorable, may not be favorable. But understand that we are put into a situation that is because what we deserve. We are in a specific situation because we deserve to be placed in that situation. Either like Shantanu, who was supposed to learn from that situation, or for us to basically go through that situation because we have to pay back for some bad karma that we have done. But that is the purpose of troubles in our life. Therefore, now I'm going to conclude from a devotee's perspective. Devotees will also face trouble. Arjuna is a devotee. He is the he is a constant companion of the Lord. But he faces so many difficulties in his life. So that does that therefore mean that sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to do one mala, I'm going to do this puja, I'm going to do that puja, I'm going to be in service, therefore there shouldn't be problems for me. No. If those devotees had problems in their lives, we will also face problems. So devotees too shall face problems. But because they are in devotion, because they try to relate everything to the Lord, good or bad, they are not overwhelmed by the troubles. They take refuge of God. They take refuge of Guru or Shastra and try to think through Shastra, Guru and God as to why I am here. And therefore they are more accepting of the trouble. And they willingly submit to it, thinking that, okay, I deserve this. And that gives them a certain strength, and it sort of is an inoculation against the disease itself. So the disease comes, but there is also a vaccine inside you that protects you from that disease, the devotion that you are having, that, submission to the Lord and the situation, because you accept the Lord as the person who knows everything, not I know everything. So the moment you do that, that creates a vaccine to the troublesome situations, and the devotees are able to get through that trouble very easily compared to non-devotees, just like Arjun Maharaj will in this situation. The strength and fortitude that comes from this power of devotion. So the vaccine that I talked about. And finally, as devotees advance, they will come to a point where they will eventually stop seeing things as favorable or unfavorable. So first devotee will say, this is a trouble, this is a problem for me. This problem is because of my past reaction, sinful action. But this concept that this is a trouble and this is pleasing will slowly evaporate as the devotee progresses in devotion. As we will see through Bhagavad Gita, if we really understand and accept and internalize Bhagavad Gita, we will also slowly start to not see things as favorable and unfavorable, because favorable and unfavorable is our small mind thinking. This is good and this is bad. There is nothing good and bad. Everything is good. It is his creation. Everything has to be good. If he is good, everything that is created is good. So even a bad situation is good because it puts me into a better position tomorrow. You know, those who are accountants may understand this. Vyaparis understand this. You're paying a loan means it's not a bad thing. It is still increasing your net worth. So whether you keep the cash or you pay the loan, your net worth is still the same. So similarly, a devotee who's understood and who's realized is able to apply this knowledge, that stops to then think of favorable and unfavorable things. So this is what we can get out of chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. And with this kind of background, with this kind of thinking, we should be able to receive the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which is going to come in chapter 2. I'll take a pause here. I hope I have spoken properly. I hope I have not confused. My apologies if I went into too much detail or not into too much detail in certain aspects. And I'm happy to be guided by your questions, comments, or feedback on this. Hare Krishna. Anybody who has any questions or comments, anything that I missed or did not, misstated, do let me know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, I really appreciate the prehistory of Bhagavad Gita, and all the details and all the characters you have explained. But do you think we should, before we go into the Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada Guru Maharaj has mentioned to read the introductions of the Bhagavad Gita, that's 20 pages of it.
Yes, Prabhu.
Do you think we should go on those pages, detailed reading on those? Do you think that that'd be more appropriate, helpful to all the people join with us?
I'm happy if that's what everybody wants, Prabhu. I thought we did summarization of the introduction in the last two classes, but if you actually want that, yeah, I get it. Somebody coming and talking about the introduction without us actually reading the introduction. I think it is 32 pages. So unless we actually read, maybe there is, devotees may not fully grasp. I'm okay if that is what is felt, but I thought, and I'm guided by Gopal Pran Prabhu, right? So he provided another class on introduction, and then he said, let's do chapter 1 summarization. So that's why I moved to chapter 1. But I'm happy if we want to read, we can read.
Well, this was my suggestions, because that's what the books call for it, that's Bhumika in Gujarati or introductions in English are very essential to go through.
So, Prabhu, I joined this journey of reading of Bhagavad Gita on Sundays, as you know, long ago. But again, I joined when it was, I think, just at the start of chapter 3. No, actually, end of chapter 2.
Oh,
And therefore, what I don't know is whether at that time, we read the introduction completely, and therefore it is time to summarize. But if we did not read introduction back then, then this is not time to summarize and maybe read. So I don't know, Prabhu. I thought that we read introduction back then, and therefore we are now just summarizing.
No, we see initially when we started, I wasn't the speaker like you are, and we were just reading. I was reciting verses, and the Prabhu was reading the translations of it. So I think, I suggest management, I like to say, how about we start the introductions because it's at the bird eye view of the Bhagavad Gita written by the, Prabhupada Maharaj. So it probably, if you talk to the management and talk about it, read it very carefully, the first pages all the way up to English Bhagavad Gita, page number 30, it could be very beneficiary to all the people who listen. That's my suggestions, If they approve, it's up to them. Hare Krishna.
Sure, Prabhu, I'll convey this to Shyam Rasika Mataji. But I actually want to ask the devotees on this call. Sometimes I think that, for because we have devotees at all levels, right? And if sometimes I feel that, maybe we go into too much detail, and therefore people may start to not find it useful because it's just too much detail and not on the topic. Because
Oh,
chapter 1 could have been summarized in 10-15 minutes as, this is what Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra are doing. This is what are the signs of victory. This is what Arjun Maharaj asks and sees. And then as he sees things, this is what he's thinking and arguing. So we could have summarized it that way. We could now say that that is summarization, but I went into the creation, the Ajnana, how that Ajnana shows up in Arjun Maharaj's mind when he is asking this question from 31 to end of chapter. How that Ajnana is basically bringing those 40 million people, 40 lakh people to the point of Kurukshetra war, etc. So I went into detail.
ये हो गई के बाथरूम जा गई
So my point is, devotees, do you see this is too detailed, and how, what is the right balance here?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Definitely the details helped me to connect the knowledge, and that has always been, I think for me, that has always helped. So, and I have not,
क्या मतलब
I've not read the
अगर डे
Mahabharata.
ट्रैवल है
So
तो मेरे को डे
this
ट्रैवल की
today's conversation
और तेरी
helped me
सिंपल टिकट करना इकोनॉमी
to
करना
think like, I want to read the Mahabharata, start from there. So it has
देख लो
definitely helped me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else? Because this conversation is good. It shouldn't be what the speaker says, thinks is the right uh, topic and the right detail in which to present the topic. It is useful to get this kind of response. And if you like the details, it is good. We can endeavor to provide the details. So I'm happy that you feel the details were useful. If others have other views, I'm happy to hear of them now.
Prabhuji, this is Surinder Bhandari. I like your detailed knowledge of Bhagavad Gita on the introduction or whatever is there on that one. So I think that may be much more knowledgeable, much more informative, and much more to learn on that one. And this is my intake on that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
I was not aware of all those details and all what you have, so much depth you have given the knowledge and all. I think I haven't heard from anyone before like that way and all. So I really appreciate. So nice of you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So we will continue with this. Haladhar Das Prabhu, I'll take your suggestion to Shyam Prasita Mataji and Gopal Pran Prabhu, and I'll see what they say. Uh, Otherwise, so if they say, let's go back and read the actual contents of the introduction and not just summarize, because we never read it even when we started this journey, then I'm happy to go through the reading. But I thought we were at the point of summarization. That's why we summarized introduction. That's why we summarized chapter 1. And I was thinking that next class we'll summarize chapter 2. So let me speak to Shyam Rasika Mataji and see where we go.
Dhanyavad Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
So,
Prabhuji. This is sorry, Prabhu.
go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanyavad. I think my personal expression is that I loved everything that you took us through today. So much so more that we realize that we are an instrument and we are here to experience life. And our choices, whether it is towards Maya or etc., how it derails, and our choices on awareness, um, trust in the Lord, and all of that helps us to strike the balance. And the very foundation that um, the rich heritage that we come from has always taken the side of what is more appropriate or more righteous. I'm just mesmerized. You know, thank you so much. Dhanyavad, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. The reason I went into all those life stories of different characters is because when we are faced with this situation, we will be able to think, okay, what, I also have a journey. And then just like those characters, specifically say, Amba or Shakuni, etc. How do they see this and perpetuate problems for themselves and others around them? And how is Arjun Maharaj facing the situation? And then how is he trying to find a problem to the solution? Similar problem, you could have thought that Amba is now at a point where she is thinking, how is this life going to happen? Why did this happen to me? How am I going to react? She doesn't take a pause. She just gets so angry out of that situation that she starts to go to people who will kill Bhishma, or she wants to get the power to kill Bhishma, to the point where she takes severe austerities. And when Lord Shiva says, in the next birth you can kill him, she burns herself right away. So the point is, all of this is all about from their journey and their lessons, what we take, and within our journey, how we apply this, and how we should sort of take a pause, as Arjun Maharaj did in the midst of the war, at the beginning of the war, and then he's thinking about things, and then when he thinks about things, he even validates whether his conclusion is right or wrong with the Lord. And we also should be able to, apply this kind of thing. So that was important for me. And, as I said, when you understand these life stories, some of the verses that are more uh, complex to understand, and they create a debate in our mind. And people will say, keep saying, why this and why that. We now understand because we've seen the journey. We understand that we don't really understand much. And therefore, we have to take his shelter. And that shelter, taking refuge, is wholesome. It is actually meaningful. So I went into that detail. I'm happy that you guys did not see it as confusing or too much elaboration. And thank you for your patience and your humility to humor me. Hare Krishna. So we will stop here if nobody has question or comments. Anybody? Okay. So we'll stop here with our prayers to the Vaishnavas. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Nama.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव जन की जय।
Jai.
हरिनाम संकीर्तन की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल।
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you
हरे
very
कृष्ण।
much.
विकास प्रभु जी की जय। हरे कृष्ण, हरि बोल।
Haribo, Haribo.